Yo, welcome to the entertainment headquarters and welcome to the Retro Classic Movie Show. My segment on the channel dedicated to films anywhere from the 1970s, potentially earlier, up to, the mid 2000s. And because this is, I think, a very special year for this particular franchise, and I'm a huge fan of this franchise, I wanted to dedicate the December's choice of this show to Back to the Future. And who better to bring on other than my amazing host, DJ Anubis, but two other special guests, Mr. Thrash Pondu Pons, and of course, Anthony Jordan of Anthony Jordan's Movies and Gaming. So we're here to talk all things Back to the Future. But before we get cracking with that, let's see who's in the chat today. We have Mr. Jake Hall. We also have Gary Carpenter in the chat.
Gary, he's back.
Yes, season's greetings to you as well, Gary. But yes, Back to the Future, something, I have enjoyed since I was a kid. It's something I can watch and always find enjoyment in it. So we'll start with
Snarky and Jedi too.
Oh, Snarky's there as well. Oh,
Snark's
hello.
ass. What's going on, my lady? Good to see you.
And hello,
Jordan.
Jedi.
Jedi. I said Jordan. I meant Jedi.
So,
one of those J words.
Yeah, Jedi Jordan. But to my good host DJ Anubis, can you remember the first time hearing or seeing the original Back to the Future?
Yeah, I think I did actually see this one in the theaters. I mean, there was a lot of hype about it. It was sort of state of the art in terms of movies at the time. Even when I go back to watch it now, just some of the things they were able to do with it were pretty fun and amazing. But I remember really loving it. It was a lot of fun, and it's been a long time, obviously, but I do remember it. And of course, the soundtrack is amazing to this film as well. So,
yeah, couldn't agree more. Thrash.
Yeah, I too saw it in the theaters. It was the summer of '85, and I was out visiting a friend of mine out in South Bend, Indiana, and his dad had gotten passes, and he goes like, "What do you guys want to see?" And we're like, "Back to the Future," and I remember being blown away by it. It was comedy, it was science fiction, it was action, it was pretty much everything you want to see when you're a young kid going to a movie, And
this was like the height of Michael J. Fox too, and his TV show, and then of course he would go to do Teen Wolf and stuff like that. So,
yeah. One thing that always stood out to me straight, it's just the title, Back to the Future. As soon as you hear that, it just instantly hits you, Back to the Future. It's such a catchy, strong title. As soon as you hear it, your ears instantly pick up and go, that really sounds interesting. So that's what always got me as soon as I heard about them. Anthony Jordan.
Probably when I was about 10 years old. It was on WB11 Thursday evening movie. Had a really good time with it, but I was also mad at the ending because I instantly wanted to see the second one but didn't have a way to.
Yeah, because think about it, they didn't know if this was going to be successful or not. They knew it was going to be unique and different. Yeah. They knew it was going to be unique and different, and the way this thing ended, it ended basically leading you into a sequel, which, let's face it, whether a film does good or bad, but they think it has potential to maybe become a franchise or at least spawn a sequel. There's a lot of films out there now that will have a post-credit scene, a mid-credit scene, or it'll end with a unique ending that kind of hints that there could be another one. And some films have done that and then didn't get a sequel because they just weren't that damn good. But luckily for us, Back to the Future did so well that we basically got a trilogy. So before we actually talk about the first one, I'll just talk a little bit about the film. So Back to the Future is an American science fiction franchise created by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale. The franchise follows the adventures of a high school student, Marty McFly, and an eccentric scientist, Dr. Emmett Doc Brown, as they use a DeLorean time machine to travel to different periods in the history of the fictional town of Hill Valley, California. So the first film came out in 1985, the second came out in 1989, and the third one came out in 1990. Gary says there are talks to do a new Back to the Future with a new cast. Well, I think, the way the world's going, they probably will attempt to do a new one, but I guarantee it's never going to be the same as the originals.
From what I understand, the director, though, he has enough control over the rights that he said he's not going to let it happen.
Zemeckis
Well,
had
I've
said that
heard-
on a couple of occasions.
He's actually got that much control because I think he still owns the actual rights. So the only way they'll ever do another one is, unfortunately, when he passes. And if his family gain the rights in their will from him and they decide to sell the rights, it depends, if they choose to go down that road. But let's talk about the very first feature film, which of course is Back to the Future. So the film basically is about Marty McFly, who, lives in, the valley with his family. His mother, who you first meet, a bit of an alcoholic. His dad's a bit of a wimp. And he has these two snotty, ungrateful, rotten siblings. And he goes to high school, and then one day he meets up with Doc Brown, who is like his eccentric friend, who talks to. Doc then decides to take him to do an experiment. He was very eccentric, very out there, talking about, of course, a time machine that he came up with in 19 something 05.
55.
Hello, hello, Sarah.
Sarah.
So 1950, was it 19? Did you say 65?
55.
55.
55.
Came up with this idea of this time machine in 1955. So, now Marty's basically helping the Doc with his experiment. So next thing you know, he reveals in the parking lot of the shopping mall. Sorry, I don't know what a super mall is, but I know what a shopping mall is. He reveals in the shopping mall this badass DeLorean that is just, just filled out to the T with all these gadgets on it, these big machinery on the back. And it turns out that to power it, Doc has gotten some plutonium, but he's taken the polonium from these, I think it's Libyan terrorists. And he's actually going to experiment with the DeLorean. He's going to actually experiment with the DeLorean by putting Einstein, his dog, in it. But just as he's about to do the experiment, who turns up? The terrorists, and they gun down Doc Brown. Marty has no choice but then to get inside the DeLorean and obviously go on basically the ride of his life. Gets in the DeLorean and he basically ends up going on basically Back to the Future, back to the past, back to 1955, and this is the start of our adventure. So we'll start with my guest. We'll start with Mr. Thrash. How do you feel about the beginning of this movie and the beginning of like the plot of how this all starts off?
It really grabs you. I mean, there's a lot going on in the beginning, and oftentimes exposition can get clunky. But in the beginning, we find out that Marty McFly is sort of a slacker in school. He wants to be a rock musician. There's that great scene where he auditions for the talent show and he's turned down by, of all people, the vice principal, played by Huey Lewis. And it's really funny because he's actually covering a Huey Lewis song in the audition. And then, of course, we see his interaction with Christopher Lloyd. And Christopher Lloyd is a national treasure. Most people originally got to meet Christopher Lloyd with his long-running character of the Reverend Jim in Taxi. But he'd been working for years before that. He was in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. In sci-fi circles, he's probably second best known for playing the Klingon commander in Star Trek 3. He's possibly the best thing about Star Trek 3, or arguably one of the best things about it. But the interaction between the two of them is great. Also, it's so funny because this movie is basically a nostalgia piece. They go back to the 50s, but it's one of the quintessential 80s movies. You got the DeLorean. You have the references to, and I don't want to poke fun here, but at the time in the 80s, the Libyans were sort of the bad guys in the United States. Whenever you needed someone to play the bad guy, somehow they got stuck being it. So it really worked great. Also, the idea of the rogue atomic bomb creator, and that's supposedly what they're trying to get Doc to do for them. And so it just, the opening segment, it has so much going on. It's so tight. It's so brilliant. And you're really having fun with it, considering that's the 80s portions of the movie are really just bookends. Sort of like Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, very true. And you mentioned Morty and Doc. And I'm glad you mentioned it because obviously, as we know, Michael J. Fox wasn't originally cast as Marty McFly. There was another actor that was actually cast. Yes, Mr. Jedi has brought this up. They actually filmed quite a number of scenes with him, and then suddenly it was decided that he just didn't fit the role, and they quickly then got Michael J. Fox to take over, and apparently, as soon as he hit the set, the whole of the film changed. Because of his performance.
From what I understand, they shot enough scenes that they could technically, if they wanted, release a cut with Eric Schultz in it.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. Basically, but I think it was. I don't know if it was Stoltz himself or if it was Robert Zemeckis. Even though he had filmed, like you see, probably 2/3 of the movie was probably like, I just don't feel the performance or I don't feel the chemistry. I'm going to recast. Even though he probably got a big chunk of money from the studio, it would have probably cost them more to reshoot everything with Michael J. Fox, but that's the choice he chose. And as you can see, we then ended up getting 3 films out of it.
I think a portion of it is, even though it was action and sci-fi, they wanted to be above all comedy. And Eric Stoltz, I guess he played it darker. Like it was more of like an intense, almost like not quite a thriller, but heading into that level, almost like Time After Time.
Yeah.
And they want to be more comedic. And Michael J. Fox was just so expressive with the whole, you could look at him and feel the comedy. So for the comedy angle, I think they made a sound choice.
Yeah, definitely. Anthony Jordan, like, how do you feel about the beginning of the movie and like Michael J. Fox and of course the fantastic Christopher Lloyd?
It's a brilliant setup, the way they introduce the characters, just the premise, the time machine. Just like, I got no complaints. And I had one time seen something talking about some of the different permutations before we got to the final script, and I'm like, we dodged a bullet with a lot of this stuff because one of the original scripts, Marty was actually selling bootleg movies for Doc. And I'm like, if they had stuck with that would have made Doc dislikable before we even met him. So I just say that to say, too, does a great job making our two main characters really likable off the bat, and then we get the shocking scene where he gets shot and has Marty speeds away in the time machine, inadvertently going back and going into the past to escape the terrorists. So just great fun stuff already. And the
Yeah,
score,
because
which
even
really makes the action scenes all that much better.
yes, and the thing is with this particular film, it starts off quite dark, like you see with the gun down the dock, and then it ends up in the past, and then obviously once Marty's in the past, events transpire where basically he's going to wipe out his future, because obviously there's an event with Marty's father, you know. So there's Doc in the fantastic Marty McFly. Like you see, you're all introduced to a number of characters. So this is his father when he's younger, back in 1955. And then who can forget this lovely lady, Leah Thompson, who plays his mother. And then obviously the villain of our piece is Biff. And of course, basically events transpire where Marty's father was like basically a peeping Tom in a tree looking at his mother, or who is potentially going to be his mother. And he falls out of the tree, runs away, and then Marty is hit by a car. And the next thing, he wakes up in a darkened bedroom, sits up, and there's his younger mother basically Googling over him, getting infatuated with him. And he's like, this is so uncomfortable, Mom. Well, he can't see him, Mom.
I do have to say this,
Mom.
My 2 cents on this. So these films I went back and revisited for the first time in a very long time, all 3 of them, to prepare for this. And as good as Leah and Crispin Glover are as actors, like I have so much more appreciation for watching this first movie again with them both, because the way they both were able to, because they were young at the time, and the way they were able to play older characters was quite amazing. Like at the time, I didn't really think much of it, but going back and rewatching when Leah was doing the older version of herself, it's like, that's actually quite good. Like she changed her dynamic. She's still the same, but then when she's younger, obviously she's being a young girl. Yeah. So she managed to like adapt to the older versions that she was playing. And again, you brought up when Marty wakes up in the bed, like I forgot that happens like every single movie. At some point he thinks he's dreaming, and then it turns out his mother is there with him. So yeah, I had to give a shout out to Lee and Crispin, because they're amazing actors.
Oh, amazing. And I don't think he gets enough credit for that, for his acting either, for his performances. Like I remember him, what he was in the 2 what they're called, the remakes of Charlie's Angels, and I think he's brilliant in them.
He was great.
I think it is a brilliant.
I thought he was fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's one of those actors where but every time you see him, you're like, why didn't he go farther?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up.
And I know we'll get into it, but if you look into like the reasoning why he wasn't in the second one, I think some of that decision making on his part played into the reason why he didn't get more roles.
Yeah. He got blackballed from Hollywood. Yeah, that really holds water.
Well, we'll get to it when we talk to the ending of this film, but I do have some things I want to mention about his take on the ending.
Okay.
Yeah. But like I say, I think he's an actor, but I've heard he was difficult to work with in Hollywood. I have heard that. But anyway, as the plot progresses, we basically find out that because of he being run over by the car instead of his father, it's now altered the timeline. He potentially isn't going to be born anymore. So because he knows that Doc came up with the idea of creating a time machine in the year that he's arrived in 1955, he then goes to visit a younger Doc, even though he looks like he's never freaking aged. He looks exactly the same way. You would think if he's younger in 1955, he would look like it. They would, make him at least look a bit younger. But he meets him,
Well, they
explains
didn't
the
have the kind of
situation.
CGI they do now, so
Yeah, but they could have
So,
made him look older in 1984 to compensate for it.
true.
or this sounds stupid. I wouldn't want them to do it, but because he's younger then, they could have changed his hair color and made him put on like the same kind of hair, like the out there hair, but made it black or brown, so it looks like his hair's went grey through time over the years. They could have even just put a wig on him, but at the same time, Doc Brown wouldn't be the iconic character that we know and love if they did that. So as the plot progresses, he basically meets the Doc, and they end up going through, trying to figure out how to get him and his mother together. At the same time, you have the younger Biff, who's a bully to his father, who's like basically very he's very nasty to people. He's just your all-time scumbag school bully. He does a lot of sexual harassment of the girls. He thinks he owns the town. And basically, it's then revealed that the only way they're going to be able to change things or to get him back to the future. And the plan is to get him back to the future before Doc was killed. And to also, before that happens, they also need to try and get his father and his mother together. And they discover that through a newspaper article that Marty brought back from the future, that there's information on there about a lightning strike at the town hall. And they're basically going to use that information to get Marty back to the future, and they also need to try and, get his parents together. And there's just a lot of good content here, just a lot of good comedy moments, amazing acting from all the cast. Anubis, how did you feel like for the rest of the movie, how the movie's plot goes?
I think it's great. Obviously, the dynamic of where his mother has a crush on him, and she spends a good portion of the movie trying to chase him down. But then there is that kind of cool moment when they're in the car and she kisses him, and then she's like, "It's like kissing my brother." So I just turned into kind of a funny joke there. But there's so much to love about this. The guitar playing when he starts going crazy with the solo, and then all of a sudden everyone stops because he's playing something no one's ever heard of before, and he's like, you guys will see this eventually.
I did not know this one. So that would have been a completely different outcome. And yeah, Thrash is back. Welcome back, Thrash.
Well, I'm almost back. Let me give it one more try.
And then you had, but then apparently somebody has, let's have a look here. I'm just reading the comments.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we'll go. So they never paid him what he basically was asking for. There he is.
Also, I would, since we mentioned him, there was actually something deleted that wasn't written, but it was in the novelization that explained why Crispin Glover's character is so timid, and apparently his father had always discouraged him from chasing bigger and better things.
How about that?
Right. See, all I know, because I haven't really looked into it in much detail, but I do know I heard that there was like issues, there was a bit of difficulty around the situation, and that's why he never returned. But at the same
Stream
time
versus
as that is the
had
case,
something to do with the contract, which I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know much about his
Yeah.
situation, but that's what he's saying it is.
so this is why he was blackballed.
Sounds about right. That's the problem with Hollywood. It's a very, very, very tough town. Look what happened to Faye Dunaway after she played Joan Crawford. At the time, a lot of Joan Crawford's friends were still alive and controlling Hollywood, and it was years before she get another role because they were all trying to defend their friend. It's a real tough industry. There's a wonderful saying, "I wouldn't wish Hollywood on an enemy." And much as I would like to make it one day, I understand how horrible it could be.
Well, I mean, look
don't-
at Nicolas Cage.
Mhm.
Cage got tired of a lot of the popular stuff. That's why he started doing a lot more independent
Yeah.
stuff. He just doesn't. He washed his hands of that shit.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah,
why
yeah.
I don't think
Well, you see a
Glover
lot.
was why I think Glover was done wrong. I don't think he did himself any favors either.
I think it was a mixed bag of both of them. I think it was a mix of his attitude and of the studio. Like if you're, if you look at a lot of films, there's a lot of huge studios where they get unknown actors or well-known actors at that time, and they get them in big franchises, and then the career's never the same again. You don't, you've got rare cases where stars go on to bigger, better things. Like you've got, of course, Harrison Ford after Star Wars has become a A-list superstar. I always thought it was going to be Mark Hamill. Now, for example, Mark Hamill, don't get me wrong, has had a successful career. He's had many roles. He's had, but majority of what he's known for is his voice acting. And it's ever since he returned to Star Wars, a few years ago, he's now kind of had, like, when it comes to physical acting, he's had kind of like a resurgence. Like he was in the Fall of the House of Usher television show for Netflix, which was great. He
I
then
heard
is
nothing but
now
good
was
things.
in that. Yeah, he was in that Stephen King adaptation that's just come out. I think it's The Walk or The Long Walk, something like that.
Oh yeah.
So sometimes it's just the way it goes. Sometimes you're not that you're not a bad actor. Just for some other reason, Hollywood chooses not to cast you. It's as simple as that. They just choose not to cast you. They just don't see what the rest of us as the viewers see, and they don't get cast anymore in big projects.
Well, he's
You know,
been in
it's
a
just the way
lot
it
of
goes.
stuff, but
Oh,
I think
well,
Been
part
in
of
a
it
lot.
is just has a lot of smaller roles. So like he's been in a lot of shit. It's just
oh, he
not-
has. Oh, one thing though, someone earlier mentioned that he played Lex Luthor's father in Smallville. That was John Glover, not Crispin Glover. Thank you for playing. Not
Good
quite.
That
correction.
was John Glover, yeah.
John Glover, yes.
But like overall thoughts on the first Back to the Future, and we'll start with DJ Nubis.
Wonderful film. I love everything about it. Still a lot of fun. The ending is cool because again, Doc is able to find a way in 1955 to actually get the car to go back to the future, which is the whole point of the movie. And then, of course, there's that little fun at the end where initially Doc doesn't want to know the future, but because Marty really cares about him as a friend and a mentor in a sense, that he still tries to leave him a note, and you think he isn't going to have it because he tore it up, but in the end, Doc couldn't resist and saw what his future could be, except for he changed it. And so we all like that ending. It's a much happier ending. when Marty gets back.
Mm-hmm. The ending of the
So,
film's fantastic.
Are we doing ratings yet or later?
We'll do them with when we do all three.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, Thrash, your overall thought of the first film?
It was one of those films that I just thoroughly enjoyed it. Perfect blend of science fiction, comedy, drama. I mean, I gotta tell you, to this day, the scene where Doc is trying to question Marty to prove that he's from the future, and he goes, "Okay, future boy, who's president?" And the entire audience burst into laughing because in 1985, we all knew what was going to happen. He goes, "Ronald Reagan," and of course, in the 50s, Ronald Reagan was known as an actor. Who's that in the secretary? Jerry Lewis. And it was just the humor is so classic and so poignant, and it's just so well put together. I thoroughly enjoy this movie to this day, and its impact on the entertainment industry can't be understated. I mean, Rick and Morty uses it as a template. Pretty much every science fiction movie made since at least makes a reference to it. It really was a game changer.
Yeah, like you cannot underestimate the legacy of Back to the Future. Like the trilogy, like I always say that the Lord of the Rings is probably one of my all-time favorite cinematic trilogies. But of course, this Back to the Future is like a childhood favorite of mine. It's something I thoroughly enjoyed, and I always can find some fun in it. Anthony, your overall thoughts?
Sorry, but before I go, I'll say, since Thrash mentioned it too, the Ronald Reagan joke unintentionally became a setup for a nice subtle joke in the second film when they're at that diner. The diner, the 80s diner, where there's like a video of Ronald Reagan there.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. My favorite part about that scene, not to get ahead of ourselves, is it's one of those 80s retro nostalgia restaurants, not realizing the 80s were going to become a huge part of nostalgia 30, 40 years later. They were way ahead of the game.
The year this film was taking place was right around the time the 80s nostalgia boom took off, which makes it even funnier.
If I'm correct, Thrash, in that, because they were using like the Max Headroom thing going on with Ronald Reagan, but that was also Gaddafi in that video, if I recall.
Yes, it was. It was.
Going back to the Iran-Libya thing.
Yeah, that's 100% true. So, Anthony, your overall thoughts on the first Back to the Future?
Just a very fun movie with a good little message too, because I teased talking about this, but Crispin Glover's big issue was that the message was wealth equals happiness, and that's why the McFlys are happy now. And that's never the message I got from it. I got from it the fact that if you want to be happy, you have to get out and go after the things you want. And the McFlys having money is just the payoff of George going after the things that he wants. And I thought that was a great little message. You ain't going to be happy unless you get up and go after the things you want.
Well,
it's gravy.
That's the thing too, though, because like at the end, or at least part of the movie, when Marty comes back home and you see the other son and the other daughter, and then of course the mother and father, we know how his dad and mom got together through the punch to Biff. But then what happens is, even later in life, George is still succumbing to his fear of Biff. And so I think that's more of the driving force of the tension between Leah's character and Crispin Glover's, because it's not so much that they're unhappy, it's just that you can see that George has just kind of come into himself again as a big nerd again. Like after he beats Biff up to get, her out of the car and stuff, that's how they got together. But now we're like looking at it like now Biff's back in control. And it's kind of like I don't think it had anything to do with money. I just think it had to do with the dynamic between how George didn't overcome his initial win against
Stand up for
Biff.
yourself.
Yeah. And I
Well,
think that's
bear in
pretty
mind,
much the only thing that was the problem, not money. It was just that.
spoiler alert,
Yeah.
Biff shoots him. So
But again, it
Biff's
goes
not
back,
playing fair.
it
Yeah.
goes back to them having money is the payoff of George actually finally standing up to the bully, going after the things he wants rather than just being timid and afraid of everything.
Yeah. Well, it's like anything. It's like overcoming your fears and taking the risks. So obviously, he was so nervous that he couldn't approach. And then when he seen her being harassed by Biff, he got overwhelmed with anger because of how she was being treated by Biff. It gave him like this unwhelming confidence, and she seen like a spark in him.
Mm-hmm.
She's seen this passion in that she's probably never seen. She probably never looked at him before up to that point.
Oh, yeah.
And because it was like this initial connection, she now is seeing him like the real him for the first time. And because she's now looking at him, seeing him for him, it's now continuing to give him that confidence. And then obviously he's then went out and made a life for himself because of them getting together. And basically, it's like anything in life. If you want to achieve something in your life, you've got to work hard for it. If you want to live a certain lifestyle, you have to work for it. It's not just going to land on your lap. So I understood those elements. And like you say, when he gets back to the future and it's slightly been altered, and you see the differences of the life that Marty's family had before to now, it's basically, it's just showing you the consequences if you work hard or if you don't, or if you want to stay in a rut and stay in the same place, or do you want to make something of yourself? Look what you can achieve. So it's quite a positive message.
Mm-hmm.
Most def.
And as you know, we then got the sequel, which the sequel for me, I think we can all agree the first one's still the best. But for me, the second one is just as much fun. And there's one particular scene I always go back to that I always chuckle at, and I can watch it time and time again, and it's this one.
What was it? Jaws 19?
Jaws 19. I don't know why, but I always laugh when I say that. Because just like, the Jaws films came out in the 1970s. And next thing you know,
By the
you had
time
Jaws
this one
2.
was made, what year did this come out? 89. So yeah,
89.
by the
1988.
time this came out, there'd already been 4 Jaws films. So that was clearly a poke at that whole trilogy of franchise.
In this movie, if there's 19 Jaws films in the future, then how many Godzilla movies would there have been?
Probably not as many.
But this film basically takes right off after the end of the first one, where basically Doc comes and he says, I need to take us to the future to save your children, or your life is going to be terrible. And so he basically takes Marty and his girlfriend to the future. But can we also talk about, there was a recasting there as well?
I love Elizabeth Shue, but I actually prefer the other girl, personally.
A lot of people do. But I guess her mom was dying of cancer at the time, so she couldn't.
Oh, is that what it was? I was always curious why she never returned.
Yeah, well, there was this horrible rumor at the time that she had some drug addiction, and she was like fighting dependency. But no, her mother had her cancer had gone full blown, and she was coping with that as much as she could, and because she was trying to keep her mother's disease out of her life. She didn't fight the rumors as good as she could have, but that was the real reason. It's really, really tragic. It's a shame. We're so hardwired to believe the worst things possible about Hollywood celebrities that we just sinker. In reality, sometimes there's much darker, sadder backstories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at least she took a priority over their mom. That's good.
Well, she proved what was important. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
family. So she put her family before career. So you've got nothing but respect for her there on that one. So basically, the plot of this one is that Morty's son is going to be arrested, and it's going to throw the family into turmoil because Biff's grandson is also is involved, Griff. So Griff is going to make Morty's son get involved in a gang, which is going to turn out to get them into a lot of trouble, and Morty's son will be arrested. Morty will then lose his job, and basically it's going to send the family down a dark path. So Doc brings Morty to the future to try, stop that from happening. But what ends up happening is Morty ends up getting into a fight with Griff, and because don't forget, they go back to the future, and this is set in 2015. I'm still waiting for the hoverboards.
Yeah.
For years, people believed they actually were such a thing. They were just waiting for new regulations to come through so they could go in the market. No, they don't work. They don't work. But I remember when I was in college, I remember kids be like, "Yeah, I can't wait for those new reverse gravity hoverboards." What? But yeah, people really believe those were a thing.
Yeah, I remember even in the 90s, people in school thinking they were, it's just going to be a few more years and they're going to hit the stores.
Yeah.
Can we talk about, for all the cool stuff they show in the future, can we talk about like the dystopian implications of this future? I mean, within 12 hours of you getting arrested, you're tried and convicted. Like, that's terrifying when you think about it.
Well, if you think about it, the big thing
Horrendous.
was, and this is sort of the natural extension of what was going on in the States at the time, but the urban crime was getting out of hand, gang violence, that type of thing. I mean, the scene where Marty accidentally goes into the bad neighborhood, and there's all these like street gangs roving. One of them has like an armored car, and it's like it seems far fetched, but I do remember back in the late '80s, particularly in really nasty cities, not to be mean, like Detroit. I mean, things were just really, really getting out of hand, and the idea of them having their own armored personnel carriers, it seems laughable now, but it's like people wouldn't have been surprised back then. There was a drug dealer that were buying a sub,
you know, like the scene where they go to the casino and they see Biff, and he's basically monopolized the world. So we're getting ahead there. So basically, they try to save Morty's son. You've got Biff's a really elderly version of Biff who has this magazine, and it's got all of the winnings from the next 20 years of horse races. So he then, when they're trying to save Morty's son, he somehow gets in the time machine and goes back in time and gives it to the younger Biff. He then goes back to the future, drops it off, but he obviously has an accident and snaps his cane and leaves it in the time machine. They then go back to the past, and they can see things are dramatically different.
Oh.
Biff, and then they realize they see Biff's cane in the car, and they realize he's traveled back in time. So then they end up having to try and correct it, and they end up going to Biff's casino at one point. And I love when you see the teacher who calls them all slackers, and he's got a machine gun in his house, and he's shooting them walking down the street. I don't know if you've got this, but as you know, Predator 2 is set in like a dystopian screwed up world, it gave me Predator 2 vibes with the gangs walking around the cities and like trash cans on fire and the casinos got bodyguards, and it gave me that kind of vibes.
I'll buy that.
I just always envied this movie because
So
I wish I could get
the
an
second
almanac.
film basically
Go and change my financial.
yeah, where he says it's going to make it better, and you've got there's Doc and the dude and all, like the space version of the DeLorean, I guess. I always loved this design. But,
there is a little bit of I guess you could say, a plot hole here. I know Doc couldn't have anticipated Biff stealing the time machine, but it's got this futuristic device that basically burns garbage and powers it. So why didn't he just roll up the almanac and drop it in there to fuel the car?
You could have done. Yeah, you could have done that, and then it would have.
There were a lot of plot holes.
Yeah, but they obviously had to do something to keep the story going. But the second movie for me, it's just as much fun as the first one. But it does feel like there's something missing. And for me, that thing that's missing is, as you know, you have this element of the plot in the first one with the mother and the father, and how the father gains his confidence through attacking Biff. And that created like such a humble moment. I feel with the second one, it misses the whole when it comes to adding kind of an element to the film with that. Like when they go back to the future, and Doc's basically they think he's dead and he's disappeared, and then it's revealed he gets a letter from the 1885 or something, and they have to go back. The way the second one, it feels as like the first one was meant to be a one and done with the hints of a sequel. And I feel as like there's elements of the next two that it doesn't hit you the way the first one did, because there's something missing that made the first one so special. That makes sense?
Well, may I? I think,
yes.
As we talked about before, the first one stayed really, really, really tight. The second one was all over the place. I have to tip my hand at this point to tell you, I don't particularly like the second one. I don't hate it, but it's not one of my faves. And a couple of things. One, first of all, yes, when Marty goes back to the past and there's that opening segment where he's just sort of like, oh, wow, what's going on? Oh, wow, what's going on? Oh, wow, what's going on? You understand it. He goes through half the movie doing the exact same thing. Like he hasn't caught on to the fact that there's time travel and things are going to be different when he time travels. And they were trying so hard to, typical Hollywood. If 5 is good, 10 is better. If a 10-minute scene of Marty acting like a fish out of water is good, a 40-minute scene will be even better. But it threw the whole pacing off. There's one scene where Marty is in the casino and he's just doing this, oh, wow, what's going on? Oh, wow, what's going on? It's like, yeah, we get it. Can we advance the plot? And Biff says, come over here and sit down. And he screams, sit! And I remember thinking, oh, my God, he read the audience's mind. Morty, could you just sit down so we can advance the plot? It just threw the whole movie up. There's a scene where they go back to his parents' house. Oh, and I understand Crispin Glover couldn't do it, so, Marty had to, and I appreciate that God knows they tried. But the thing that bothered me most about that whole segment, which just should have been omitted, it does two things. One, it shows that Marty hasn't learned anything. He's still taking unnecessary chances, and it costs him his job, which sets up another plot complication. So now you have two parallel plot complications going for no reason whatsoever. Yeah. And two, more importantly, Elizabeth Shue can't see her older self. We get it. All she has to do is get out of the house. Now, I understand doorknobs are different in the future. Haha, very funny. She can climb through a window. She can do any number of things. But all she has to do is get out of the house, and everything she does keeps her from getting out until finally Of course, as she's going out, mom's coming in. How convenient. And they're like, ooh, ghost. And I'm like, are you kidding? Really? And then they just get rid of her the rest of the movie. We'll dump her on the porch and we'll just kind of catch back up with her when everything's back to normal. It's just so erratic. It's almost like they wanted to make a slapstick comedy more than a Back to the Future movie. And I understand a lot of people love it. It just, to me, it's like, I wish we had a nice, tight story like the first one.
That's exactly how I feel.
You mentioned how they don't seem to lose or don't learn anything, especially Marty. One of my frustrating things is like he continued to sabotage himself whenever someone called him chicken. It would piss me off. I'm like, dude, just walk away. You know it's gonna fuck. I mean, obviously at the very end of the third one, he finally gets it, but it's like, dude, it doesn't take you that long. Come on.
It did take way too long for him to figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly what you said, Thrash. Everything I agree with. Like, this is probably why I'm very much like you. I don't like the second one as much as the first one.
What's a businessman in his 40s gonna care if another employee calls him chicken?
Right.
It's like, I just work with you. I don't have to live with you.
In the very cutthroat 80s world of yuppie finance, all I would think of is, oh my God, it's a trap. Mr. Tanaka's on the other line, and this guy's trying to goad me into doing something so they can fire me. You know what?
Yeah.
Call me a chicken all you want. It's a trap, and I'm not stupid. But guess what? He was stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah. It basically makes him look weak, like he doesn't learn. He doesn't learn from his mistakes. And if you're still in your 40s making them kind of mistakes, it's, no wonder you get yourself into so much trouble. That's how I personally would look at it. But Anthony, your overall thought on the second film?
I really like it. I still have a ton of fun with this one. It does have its issues, but I also do feel, since we're talking about negatives, the way the first one ended felt more organic, where the way this one ended with Doc and the DeLorean it getting struck by lightning, then the Western Union just coming out of nowhere and giving him the telegram. I feel like it felt more forced, and it just didn't feel like a natural ending. Just more like, instead of doing 2 films to complete the story, we're going to milk this and do a third one. So we're going to put this in the most inorganic way possible. But I still do really like this one.
And Jedi brought this up earlier. Zemeckis actually once said in an interview when talking about the future, you are never going to be right. So he and Gale were just spin doctoring ideas, which I think you very much can tell in the sequels. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but I can see that.
Oh yes, I can certainly see where that could be the case.
Anubis, how do you feel all about the second one?
I still enjoy it. I'm kind of like Anthony. It's not horrible, but it is vastly inferior to the first one. And as you guys have pointed out, the plot, as much as it tries, it just kind of goes all over the place. So it's very erratic and chaotic. But I mean, it's still kind of fun. I mean, I do like some of the plot points in there, and some of again, they do a good job with the scene of when they go to the future, like how it's going to look. It's all spacey looking and stuff like that. So I enjoyed it. They kind of still did that at that time. So it's still okay. It's still okay.
Thrash?
I'm frozen, but still here.
Yes, yes, you are.
Oh, final thoughts?
So, yes.
I would say, again, I don't hate the movie. I think it's almost like it had some good ideas, but then kept adding on. I don't know if the studio got involved more with the second one. So like, oh no, you got to do this, and you have to add that, and you have to add this, and you have to add that. And to me, it's like the old expression, "Too many cooks." I mean, did I enjoy it? Yes, but
Yeah.
I think I would have almost liked it better if it wasn't part of the Back to the Future trilogy. If it was like a ripoff
Yeah.
that Roger Corman had made, I'd be like, oh, that was a cute spoof, but it didn't really work as a part of the trilogy.
Mm. I'm going to ask you just
The
a quick question
whole
before.
Sports Almanac just didn't need to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's true. Before we move on to the third one, I'm going to ask you a quick question. So Gary's put this, Kiel, I wonder how it would be like to time travel. So I'm going to ask you a quick question while we're talking about time. If you could time travel in any period, where would you like to visit? We'll start with Anubis.
That's a tough question. Well, I mean, how cool would it be to see dinosaurs? But I'm not really looking forward to get eaten either, because I have no idea what to expect when I get there. So, am I going to have like a platoon of army guys with me or what? But like, a lot of times it'd be cool to kind of see some of these times past or even future and see what it might look like. But then knowing us, you go forward in time and all of a sudden the Earth doesn't exist anymore. You get just blown up out of space. So I don't know. It's a real tough thing to say, because it's easy in your head to say, man, it'd be kind of cool. Again, going back to the almanac about how knowing the future and how events roll out, you could say, oh, I'm going to make a bet on this game, so I know what the result is. But you don't never know what you're going to run into when you go back. Because again, almost like Marvel with the multiverse, different timelines changes things. And so that's one thing that Doc kept saying, was how you can't do this because it's going to change your future. And they constantly got caught up in some of that, where Biff gets a hold of the DeLorean, he goes and changes time. So it's a tricky thing, man. Like, it's fun to think about, but at the same time, you have to think about the consequences about things like that.
Well, I reckon even if you went back in time and stood on a cockroach or something, it affects the future, because you've killed something that maybe shouldn't have died at the time.
Sound of thunder.
Thrash, yes. So Thrash, where would you want to go back in time or in the future?
Much as I'm a World War II buff like Gary here, I would have to say Rome. I've always been fascinated with the Roman Empire. I would love to go back, and probably the Emperor Claudius preferred, or Julius Caesar maybe, but I would love to go back to see the time of Rome.
Anthony.
Tough one, being like a history buff. There's so many things, but if I could, I would. Honestly, I think I would have liked to have seen firsthand the Christmas truce from 1914.
Brilliant answer.
Wait, is
Hi, Neko.
She just got home, sorry.
No, it's cool. Hope she's doing well. Thrash is back. Thrash, welcome back. As for me, if I had to time travel, you know what I would do just to experience it, and this is going to sound weird, I'd like to time travel back in time when the Titanic set off, and be on the Titanic, and just before it's about to go, time travel back, just so I could have a tea with the rich folks on the boat.
And say, just so Kevin can say, later, bitches. Oh my God. That would be so funny.
Well, a guy's gonna try.
You could also bring the writer of Night Swim with you from before he made the movie and just leave him on the ship.
Oh shit!
I think Jake's impressed with my idea.
Unless, of course, your
yes,
time machine fails you at the last minute.
very true. But who knows? But anyway, as you know, we were not done there yet. We then got Back to the Future 3, which for me personally, I'm going to be truly honest, may shock a few people. I generally like the third film better than the second one.
I do too.
I think it's better. I'm glad Neko agrees with this. I think the third film's got similarities to the first one. It's got like a wholesome plot to it. Where the second one, like you see, I enjoy it for what it is, but it kind of goes all over the place. This one's got a stronger plot, and I like how they put the attention on Doc. So, as you know, the first two focuses on Marty McFly and his families. One in the past, how that's going to affect his future. The one in the future, how his future is going to be destroyed. Where this one's all about the Doc, rescuing the Doc, trying to bring him back to the future. But at the same time, he's fell in love with this beautiful woman who apparently dies on the end of a bridge when a carriage goes over the cliff. And he's trying to fight the urge and his feelings to stay in the past to be with her. And then at the same time, you've got Marty McFly, who's trying to stay alive or keep the Doc alive from Biff's ancestors. And you've got that scene when he walks into the bar looking like, well, I tell you who he doesn't look like. He doesn't look like no Clint Eastwood. So, Thrash, but we'll start with you. How do you feel about the plot of the third film?
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I like the fact that this one focuses on Doc, and it's sort of a reversal. Instead of Doc needing to help Marty, Marty is helping Doc. Marty's trying to help the Doc, fall in love, basically. So in the first one, he's trying to make his parents fall in love so he will be born. Now he's trying to make Doc fall in love just to be a nice guy and also to keep him alive. You still see Marty as the main character. Marty's the one who gets in all the wacky adventures. He's the one who kicks the spittoon over onto Tannen. He's the one who gets in the shootouts. He's the one who fights the guy off with a pie plate. But it's the Doc's romance. And I do like that. Also, one of the things I loved it, and I never thought of it until someone pointed it out recently. Doc basically was the forerunner to the whole steampunk subgenre, with him creating steam-powered science fiction elements, and I love that. The only thing I didn't like about this is there are some like red herrings that really just.
We can't.
Your mics went off.
You guys can't hear me?
We can now,
Your-
but we
well, your
couldn't
mic-
before.
Oh, sorry.
You might have
your
been
mic
too
cut off.
animated.
I get that a lot. Here, I'll be more stoic. There we go. So you guys probably already noticed this too. Now, Leah Thompson is Marty's mother. How come she also looks like his paternal great-great-grandmother? That makes no sense unless his parents were distant cousins.
Yeah.
It's just something, and it's something whenever I try to watch the movie, it threw me off. Now, I understand they wanted Leah Thompson to be in the movie, and they didn't want to pair her with Doc, although I think that could have worked. Not Leah Thompson, but a Leah Thompson character. If they had her play the teacher.
They could have maybe give her a smaller role and made her just like the barmaid or something in the saloon. You know, the guy who makes the concoction.
That actually what Thrash said though, like, what if it could have been where that ineffectively him and Doc are related because of that?
Very true, but like
I bet they at least considered it.
Yeah, but it's like what you said. Like somebody said that they kept pushing around different ideas of like Zemeckis and the other writer were just putting ideas together to get the films created or put a plot together. So, like you see, they might have wanted to cast her, and they just thought, right, we'll just make a Morty's ancestor. Where I think the idea of having her be like a tough talking saloon, female saloon owner who created the concoction that woke Doc up in the barrel. I think that would have worked. I thought that one would have been stronger, and then they could have had the actress that played, Elizabeth Shue. They could have had her play his wife in the past as well.
And I do like Mary Steenburgen as an actress, but she just seemed miscast in this. You know what I'm saying? Or not miscast, just not right. She was great as a school marm. It just didn't work as a romance with Christopher Lloyd. That's just me.
That's what I like about it as well. I'll just like the Western setting, how it feels very different to the first and the second film. It's like, totally like, it feels like a different experience to the first two. Anthony, your thoughts on the third film?
Like, I have mixed feelings about this one, and I do tend to go back and forth on, do I like this one or do I like the second one better? I appreciate the more tightly woven story, but I also feel this movie's a little too long for its own good, and it could have been trimmed down. Biff's ancestor, I find like the least interesting member of the family were given in these films, and why I like the story they gave to Doc in this film, and I like that he's the main focus for once. I'm not like 100% involved on the chemistry, but I mean, I'm bored on between the chemistry of him and his love interest, but it's still a good movie overall.
See, I like how they came up with. I like the shootout between Morty and Biff's ancestors. Then I also like how they came up with the idea of getting this train, modernizing the train, and then using it to power the DeLorean. And I like the last few minutes of the film where you've got the train going down the tracks, how you've got her chasing after the train. There's the DeLorean from the third film. I like how you've got like her chasing after the train, which kind of stops the plot in a bit, like stops them from, making the way back to the future. So I just think, and I like how the plot reminds me of the plot of the first one. Like there's like a wholesomeness to it. Doc's basically, he's been this eccentric man, this man scientist who's had a dream of building a time machine, who's, doing things what he thinks is going to, benefit the future, benefit the world. And he's been sent in the past. And it's funny how all of his ideas is about benefiting him and the people of the future, but he actually finds himself way, way back in the past. He finds his family in the past. He finds, I guess, true happiness way back in the past. And it's
there's like a certain synchronicity there.
Yes, that's what I like about it. I like the fact that he's been to the future. He's been back to when he was a younger man in the 1955, but he's had to go way, way back to 1985, and that's where he truly found his happiness and his peace. And that's what I took from this. He had to travel. He's a man who had these brilliant ideas, a smart scientist who, found what he was truly looking for way back in the past.
Another thing I like is how the clock tower has always been not just essential to the plot, but substantial backdrop, and in the third one we get to see it being built.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I feel like Doc has constantly been looking for something, thriving for something, and I think deep down, throughout all his brilliance and his machine making and his incredible mind, even though he was so smart and did all these brilliant things, I think deep down he was just looking for, like you said earlier, Thrash. Morty was helping him look for love in the past, and I think deep down that's the missing piece of his life. Because if you see him at the end of the film when he's got his two kids and he's got her, there's something changed. He looks and feels different. He feels complete.
Yes.
He feels like more humble. He's not as eccentric or as crazy. Like he feels calmer, like he's calmed within himself because he's finally got what probably he's always just generally been looking for. Anubis, your feelings on the third one?
Don't really like it.
Ah.
Didn't really like it. For the most part, outside of Marty and Doc, of course, and of course, I like Mary Steenburgen as Claire. I like her from Step Brothers, so she's an amazing actress. But outside of those three, I could care less about any other character in this movie. Like, I just don't care about them at all. You like it obviously because it has similarities to the first film. I actually dislike it because it is too close to the first film. I'd rather it be something different. The one thing I would have liked, and it's not so much the idea that they're in the Old West, but if you've ever seen like Bill and Ted, how they would jump from time to time, I would have liked to see this film kind of do something like that. I would have liked them to see it kind of jump around a little bit and have a little bit of fun with that and mix it up. Like maybe they couldn't control where the car was going to go and maybe end up in the Wild West where eventually Doc would find his lady and stuff like that. But I think I kind of agree with Anthony too, that this movie is really too long for its own good because it's really trying to draw it out and drag it out. I thought it was cool at the end, though, obviously, with Doc creating the train time travel machine. That was kind of neat, and it's a nice little bookend for him to see Marty again. But overall, I don't really like this one as much. And it's not even like I think the second one's amazing, but I just don't like it as well as the second one.
Can I ask, because this is something else I noticed with it, that it doesn't have that many big moments sprinkled throughout. You have him getting in the past. You have the final showdown with Grift, which isn't that big of a moment. Then the only really big moment you get is the train sequence at the end, where the first one, you had the roller skate sequence, you had the music at the concert. The second one, you had the hoverboard sequence. And they just kept building on with these big moments. And the third one, you just get like that one really big moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like they did that on purpose to simplify it. I think they were trying to make it more about the characters than the spectacle. But,
well, they got back on track. They made it, like you said, they made it more straightforward, like the first one. The second one's it fails. The second one fails because it's gone all over the place. But this one, I think they kind of knew they screwed up on the second one with the plot, so they made it more straightforward. But it's just not as interesting as the first one. They just don't really get to the same point with the first one like they did with that one, in my opinion.
Yeah. I personally, like I say, you've mentioned the reasons why I like this one and why I kind of connect to this one more than the second one. But in all, I do think that the Back to the Future trilogy is a strong trilogy, as it's got its place in history because during the time it was made, the special effects literally for its time, the best special effects that you could have ever seen. Like the artistry, like Jedi's mentioned, the miniatures they used in the third one, they probably had miniatures on the first and the second one, like the locations, the costuming, the cinematography, the VFX at the time, what for the time were the best special effects you could have had during that time. And I still think, despite yes, they might look slightly dated now, I still think they're effective. I still think they work well in the films. What about you, Thrash? How do you feel for its time, the effects and the cinematography they used during, the filming of these films?
Well, yeah, the special effects was state of the art for the time. I still think they hold up pretty well today. And as far as the filmmaking, I really like how it's shot. By and large, I thought some the camera work was really slick, particularly in some of the more animated, fast paced shooting sequences. I mean, I think that they did a very fine job.
Yeah, and the only other thing I'm going to mention is the soundtrack. Everybody knows the Back to the Future theme. Everyone, when they hear it, they instantly recognize it. For me, it is just as famous as the Star Wars theme, the Jurassic Park theme. It is the theme for, it's just the music and the soundtrack and the score, for me, is another thing that propelled the first film soon as you heard it.
And about that, while you're at it, I mean, if you think about it, like Ghostbusters was about Ghostbusters, right? The theme song is, um, uh, it's not Back to the Future. It's The Power of Love. It isn't connected conceptually to the movie, but we still love it and we accept it. And was it Marty's love of family, love of his girlfriend, love of Doc? It doesn't matter. It's just the fact that here's a really awesome mensch of a kid, and the people he loved, they're okay as long as they stay with him. And I just think that's a really sweet message. Even though ironically it's what, and I'm frozen again. I'm apologizing, guys. I think my camera's on its last legs.
You're good.
but again, the fact that it isn't, that they didn't go for some schlocky ripoff of the movie where they just sort of uh, name drop the movie in the song. They didn't go for that, and I thought it worked very well. And you don't see that a lot.
And Jedi's mentioned this. Yeah, I generally think that Back to the Future, they'll probably not do a remake or a thing till after Robert Zemeckis is dead. I'll be in the 80s, hopefully, and have Alzheimer's and not fucking know that it's happening. But there is something that of kind of a tribute to Back to the Future, and I am going to be seeing this next year, and it is, of course, the Back to the Future, the musical.
Oh.
Which I had a family member. I've got a cousin who actually went to New York in the summer, and I must have been when I don't know if it was not long after it debuted. He actually went to see it on Broadway and actually said it's really good. He goes, it's catchy, it's full of 80s nostalgia. The cast there were brilliant. He goes, and it just took him right back to his childhood. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't mind them doing things of this nature, like a play, a musical, and doing, merchandise and stuff like that, and sticking to the heart and the soul of what these films are about. But as we've seen with like the Indiana Jones, and trying to bring long lost franchises back or much loved it doesn't always work. And I generally don't think, depending on the team, that Back to the Future will work again.
I would say, since Walter brought that up, there is technically a Back to the Future Part 4, but it's a video game. Telltale Games did a Back to the Future game. It's delisted, so it's kind of hard to get if you don't have access to. I do, and I need to play it. In the basic plot is 6 months after the events of the third film, the DeLorean shows up for some reason, and Marty not just doesn't just need to get help from Doc in the past again, but he encounters a teenage Doc, and Michael J. Fox does have a small cameo in the game voicing a side character. So if you're interested in what a Back to the Future 4 could have hypothetically been like, just look up some footage of this game.
Like video games doing like spin-offs in computer games and things of that nature, for me, is fine. But I don't want them to continue it in film form. That's just my opinion. But final thoughts, gentlemen, and ratings, and like the pecking order you will put them in. We'll start with Thrash.
Well, I think it's safe to say you guys already know that I'm going to say number one is number one, and I would give that one definitely an A. As far as number two goes, in my opinion, that's probably, in my opinion, the weakest of the three. I would give that one a C plus because it did have some entertainment. It wasn't a bad film, just it paled in comparison. And the third one, what the heck? I'm going to give the third one a B minus.
Nice. Anthony Jordan.
Well, first one, again, first one I would probably give a 9.5. Best one, I did like the movie as a kid, but I clearly don't have the same nostalgia you guys do for them. The second one, I would give somewhere maybe a 8.5, and the third one 7.5. Like I said, I go back and forth between the first and the second, but the length of the third one just keeps getting to me, and I feel like had you made it even 10 minutes shorter, you would have had a tighter, better movie for it.
I can see that.
Yeah. So finally, Mr. DJ Anubis.
So basically, they're going to be in order. So at number three, obviously the third film, that's more of like a 5 out of 10 for me. The second film is a bit of a 7 out of 10, and then the first one's a 10 out of 10 for me.
Right, for me, at number three, it's Back to the Future Part 2. I'm going to give that a 6 out of 10. Number 2 is Back to the Future Part 3, and I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10. And of course, Back to the Future, the first one, it's getting 10 out of 10. And it's still a childhood favourite of mine. I still love it to this day. I have it on Blu-ray. I watch it, and I always find it enjoyment in all three of them, despite 2 not being my favourite. It's still a classic. There's some worse sequels out there, let's be honest. There's some sequels that should never have been made. Well, at least with Back to the Future, each one has its place, and each one is good.
I'll buy that.
Rec 3.
Yes. Oh God, Rec 3. So to my good friends, yeah, we're not going to talk Rec 3, please, no more. Won't torture me, Anubis. Please do not.
Do you want to talk
me.
about Pumpkinhead 4, Blood Feud? Do we want to talk about that?
I think Anubis wants a permanent ban on the entertainment headquarters.
Oh shit!
But in all seriousness, Mr. DJ Anubis, tell us what is coming to the Metal Tavern Radio.
Tonight, Mr. Tony and I are going to be doing Ghouls of Midnight. My pick for this week is 1988's The Spider's Labyrinth. And then his is going to be, don't remember the year, I think it's 2022, called It Came from the Barn. And then on Friday, I'm just going to let you guys kind of announce the stuff that you're going to be hosting. So the thing that I'll be doing with Neko is our top albums, metal and rock albums of 2025. So we'll be doing that on Friday evening. Wow. This guy is
Right.
interesting.
Yes. He was till I got rid. Anyway, so Thrash, what is coming to your channel?
Well, I've been doing a lot of work with Danny Staten and My Fluck is Everywhere, but they're taking a break for the rest of the year. So for the rest of the year, I'm going to be doing solo shows on my channel on Sunday nights at 7 Thrash time. That's Eastern Standard. As you know, it'll generally be your basic Q&A and trivia, but this Sunday the trivia is going to be revolving around the late great Rob Reiner. I'm going to keep it as light and positive as possible, but it's going to be Rob Reiner trivia.
Cool.
Nice. Well, he deserves a tribute. He was a fantastic filmmaker and actor, and that's my 2 cents on it. And finally, Anthony Jordan.
Well, I got some stuff coming up Friday. I'll let you talk about it, but I have my Gundam Wing retrospective coming to an end with my coverage of the movie Endless Waltz, and I think that's pretty much it for the rest of the year.
Yeah, well, as you can see, my 3 guests have amazing content. Please like, share, and subscribe to their amazing channels if you're not already. As for me in the entertainment headquarters, coming this Friday, me, my good friend Chad DJ Anubis, and Anthony Jordan are doing our next Into the Darkness segment, which is dedicated to horror, and we're going to be doing a doubler. We're going to be doing The Shining and Doctor Sleep. And
Excellent.
after that, on Saturday at 10 p.m. my time, aka 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Thrashers time, we're going to be dedicating a stream to Gamera, the Guardian of the Universe. Yes, so Gamera, as you know, he is basically one of Godzilla's rivals, but it is his 60th anniversary this year. So because it is his 60th anniversary, I can't end the year without doing a stream and celebrating the career and the movies from Gamera. And finally, next week on the 23rd of December, just before Christmas, be last bit of content that I'm throwing out there before celebrating with family. Me, Anthony Jordan, DJ Anubis, DJ Neko, his partner in crime, are going to be doing a very special Christmas special, and it's going to be 2 Christmas type movies. The first is Scrooged, and the second one is going to be Edward Scissorhands by Tim Burton.
Excellent.
So two very different films, but there's some things I want to do, and that'll be me wrapped up till after the holiday season. So for them that tune in, or those that don't tune in after this, happy holidays, have a great Christmas, spend time with the ones you love, and remember what it's all about. So to my guests, Mr. DJ Anubis, Thrash, and Anthony, thanks for joining me today. For everybody that's commented and watched the stream today, thank you very much. I much do appreciate it. And like I say, please like, share, and subscribe to Mr. DJ Anubis, Thrash Pandu Pons, Anthony Jordan Movie and Gaming, and if you want, give the entertainment headquarters a like, share, and subscribe.
Of course.
Merry Christmas, Gary.
Fine.
Merry Christmas. Peace.
Yes. Merry Christmas, Gary. But to end this, I'll say what I always say. Keep on enjoying your movies. Keep on enjoying all things entertainment. And we'll catch us all at the next one. Take care, everyone.